Now, by the end of this video, I will have found my first 5-star book of 2025. I've seen so many YouTubers do this type of video, and I was so impressed by it, and I thought it was a really cool idea. When I had a look into my Storygraph challenge of the year, I saw that I have not had any 5-star reads this year up until now, which honestly was a shock to me. And I did always have this feeling that for some reason I haven't had a really good read in a long time. And just a few weeks ago, I reread the Once Upon a Broken Heart series, which I had read already last year in summer or in winter or something, I don't know. That is one of my favorite series, so I of course gave those 5 stars. However, I do not count those into this year's read, simply because it's not a new book, so I want to have an additional 5-star read. I watched Jack Edwards' recent video during the same challenge, and he went into the topic of what makes a book a 5-star book. And I really like that, so I do want to implement that here. Now, what makes a 5-star book actually a 5-star book? For me personally, a 5-star book means I think about the book even after I have finished it, and I think about it for a really long time. It is also a book that I would recommend to a large audience, I would say. I'm always a bit hesitant when it comes to recommending books to other people, even people that I'm really close to, because I know that the personal taste and what you think of a book can vary so much. And I know that some books really mean a lot to some people for various different reasons. Just because I didn't really connect with that book does not mean that it's a bad book or that it should take away from your experience of it or your rating or you loving the book. So I'm always a bit hesitant when it comes to that. I don't really want to say that a 5-star book for me is a book that I would recommend to everyone, because I feel like I've heard a lot of people say that if they consider a book a 5-star book, then that kind of implies that they would recommend it to nearly everyone. I don't really agree with that, but that's fine. But I would really like to recommend this 5-star book to a lot of people that I feel like would like that book. So overall, for me, a 5-star book is a book that really connects with me, whether that is on a personal level or because of the writing style. Usually it's a little bit of all of them though. And that I think about for a really significant amount of time after I have finished that book or that series. And in addition to that, it is also a book that I would love to recommend to people who are already interested in that certain genre, I would say. It's not the most professional definition if I'm being honest, but yeah. I don't know how else to describe it. Now, moving on. What book do I start with? I think just off the bat, the first thing that I was thinking of is the books that I have liked thus far and that I've rated 5 stars. What are similar books to that? But also maybe what did the according authors read or like or recommend. Now, before I look into what my favorite authors recommend me to read, I would like to think about the books that I already have in mind, that I have on my TBR, that I would like to get to reading, basically. One thing is the Dance of Thieves, the first book of the duology, which I have already read, and I really like this one. And I feel like the second book, Vow of Thieves, which I don't have as a physical copy right now, but I have it as an ebook, I feel like that might be, a potential 5-star read. And then also, I have started the Throne of Glass series, I believe last year, and I haven't really gotten around to reading it that much. And I did read the Assassin's Blade, Throne of Glass, and Crown of Midnight, and now I'm at Heir of Fire. And I did start it, as you can see, but not a lot. I think I've gotten 100 pages, not even 100 pages. I've gotten 70 pages into the book. I remember when I started reading it, I was just more in a mood for something that I was already familiar with, something a bit more lighthearted, and I switched to another book. But that was in the middle of my exam period, kind of, so I understand why I put this down. So this might also be a potential 5-star. I've heard that the Throne of Glass series just gets better after like the first 2 to 3 books, depending on how you view the prologue, or like the Assassin's Blade, the book that's not necessarily part of the series, but that you can, I don't know what it's called, but you can basically put it as a prologue or somewhere in between the series, whatever. Either way, I think this might be a 5-star book. Another option for me would be to read Little Men by Louisa May Alcott, and she's the same author who also wrote Little Women. And I think these books are standalones, but I was wrong about Little Men being a standalone. It is actually the sequel, also content-wise, to Little Women. I think, nonetheless, they can be read as standalones. So it's not like you're going to be lost, but it will probably have more value to your reading experience if you do know what Little Women is about and have read that or maybe seen the movie. I could imagine that this might also be a really good one, but that depends on what I'm like in the mood for. Alright, so little turn of events. My boyfriend and I were out and about in the city, and I decided to read Light Lark instead. I finished Light Lark yesterday morning, and off the bat I could already tell within the first 100 pages that this was not going to be my 5-star book. Whenever I kind of anticipate that this book is going to be a 5-star book, I notice by feeling an immediate connection, by like marking paragraphs within the book because I love the writing so much and it like speaks to me. I didn't really have that. That does not mean that I did not enjoy this book. I did really enjoy this book. I would still give this like a rather high rating. I was initially thinking 4 stars, and now I'm kind of thinking 3.75 because I did have some things here and there that confused me a little bit. The love interest situation was a bit confusing to me. I don't want to give away too much because if some people obviously haven't read it, then I don't want to spoil it for them. Overall, I really like the idea of this book. I really like the plot, and I really like where this is going. I love the plot twist toward the end. I just didn't feel like an overall immediate connection with the book. 3.75, I would say. I think I will continue with Heir of Fire, and I already read around 100 pages yesterday, I think, and I'm liking it so far, so that's good. Okay, to be completely real with you, I'm filming this update for the 3rd time because I hated every angle, hated the way I looked. So there's a bit of reality for you. Yay. Love self-doubt, don't we? Anyway, I finished Heir of Fire. I loved it, and I'm really torn on my rating. So please help. The first 70 pages or something, I did have some troubles getting into the plot and into the storyline. That might be my fault because, as I mentioned at the beginning of the video, I did stop reading this book like several months ago. I started it, then stopped because I was in the middle of my exams. So I kind of had already forgotten what happened. Now, from the around 70 page mark onwards, firstly, I noticed that I was looking forward to Selena's POVs a bit more than the others, especially once Rowan's character came into view and into Selena's POV, and his character started evolving a bit. I ate it up. I was looking forward to their chapters so much that the others kind of just blurred into the background. And I was just trying to get through those other chapters to get back to reading Selena's. So from that point on, it just got so good. Even the other perspectives that we got to see throughout the book just got more interesting, more tense, and everything slowly started to make more sense. Basically, I couldn't put this book down. I was at work and thinking of this book. I was like, I don't know, running errands, and I was thinking of just chilling on the couch and finishing this book. So that is a really good sign. However, because the first 70 pages-ish were a bit difficult to get into, I'm just really torn on what to rate this because it is so close to a 5-star. I kept thinking like 4.5, possibly 5. I don't know if I'm putting too much pressure on myself because of this video. Yeah, I might have to actually update you guys on what I think. I've got to give this like 4.5 for now, but it's really, really good. Okay, so I hope the audio isn't too bad. And yes, I am sitting on the floor, but I couldn't find a better spot without even more mess in the background. So I was a bit torn on what to read next, to be quite frank. I was really eager to read Queen of Shadows. Then I just kept thinking like nobody's gonna be interested in me just continuing the Throne of Glass series. So a few days have passed and I think I'm ready to continue reading another book. I'm really torn between like reading Little Men to, I don't know, like read something else, read a different genre, because I'm 20% into Vow of Thieves. I'm like 30 pages into Heartless Hunter. I have also started like, not much, but like 20 pages of Nightbane, so the second book of the Lightlark trilogy. I really don't know, but right now I'm just really leaning toward reading The Crimson Moth in hopes that that is interesting to you guys as well. I finished Heartless Hunter. Firstly, this is a book about a main character who's a witch and her name is Rune. And she lives in a world where she disguises herself as a noble woman who's not a witch, because in that world, witches are hunted. Interestingly enough, the person who hunts her is the love interest. So yeah, it's a very, as you can imagine, it's a very high stakes, tension-packed fantasy book. I do have to say I enjoyed this. I did kind of like fly through it. I read it in 5 days, and considering, you know, there were still like things happening in my life outside of this video, I would say that that was a pretty quick and very easy read. But it did kind of, for me at least, stuck to the surface level of good. I don't know if that makes sense, but it was just like, it was really nice. It was really enjoyable. I would certainly recommend it. It just didn't have more depth to it, at least for me personally. I don't even know if I would read the second book. I don't know. Let me know. I don't know. Is it worth it? I'm really not sure. And now I'm like kind of torn on my rating as well, because I'm trying to think if I would give this like a better rating than Lightlark or a worse rating, because Lightlark was 3.75, and in Lightlark I really loved the Six Realms and the fact that they represented the elements of the earth, I guess. And I really loved just the idea of this, and it was really well executed as well. I think realistically speaking, however, I would give Heartless Hunter a 3.5, but like a good 3.5 that I would still recommend to many people if they want like a really light, not light actually, never mind, a really fast-paced, high stakes, tension-packed fantasy book about witches. Okay, I think this is going to be 3.5 then, and then Lightlark is still a 3.75. Moving forward with this video, I was thinking of how can I increase my odds of finding a 5-star, because it has been, I don't know, how many have I read? Like 4, I think, and we have not been able to find a 5-star yet. In my head, I keep thinking like not Crown of Midnight. In my head, I keep thinking that Queen of Shadows is going to be a 5-star, but that book has like 700 pages and I don't want to just rush through it because of this video. So I found, honestly kind of by coincidence, I found a book that I think might have potential because of the fact that a favorite author of mine has left a recommendation on it. And the author that I'm talking about is Stephanie Garber, and she left a recommendation saying that this book is deliciously dark and romantic, which honestly, that sounds good. So the book that I'm talking about is The Rose Bargain. Can you even see that? And it's mirrored, I'm sorry. By Sasha Payton Smith. Honestly, I started reading it yesterday before going to bed, and I'm like 30 pages into it. And it is giving very much Bridgerton vibes. And I kind of love that. Kind of here for it. I don't think I've read anything like this before. So it is giving historical romance with a fantasy twist, I think. Really hopeful that this is going to be a 5-star, but we'll see. Also, little disclaimer, why do I keep being so unlucky in this video in choosing my books? Because the last maybe 3 even, but I would say like definitely the last 2 had like a love triangle in them, and that is not a trope that I usually would gravitate towards. Maybe I should have like read up on those books a bit more before reading them, but just so I kind of knew what to expect, because I was really going into it thinking it's like one love interest and just like a storyline alongside of it. So if you don't love love triangles and potentially don't love them between siblings, then I would maybe steer clear of Heartless Hunter, or at least like go into it expecting that. And then also with Light-Lark, there was also just like a love triangle happening, so that might have kind of decreased my rating potentially, but yeah. Anyways, I will continue reading The Rose Bargain. Yeah, we'll see. I finished The Rose Bargain. It really is a mix between Bridgerton and the Once Upon a Broken Heart series. Also, just noticed I did not even look at you. So sorry about that. I only looked at myself. So what can I tell you? Ivy Benton is the main character of The Rose Bargain. She is a girl who lives in like the 1840s, 1850s. And it takes place in England, or in London even, I think. You have a fairy queen. You have mystery, you have weird competition trials, and you have sisterhood, you have girlhood. You have girlhood, is what I meant to say. Then you have her son called Bram, and basically a competition starts where the queen wants girls to compete for his hand in marriage. And Ivy Benton is one of them. Also, what the hell? I once again read a book by accident about a love triangle. We have a love triangle between siblings, which is not what I was going for, as you know by now. But I do have to say, in all honesty, that it wasn't that bad. It really was giving Once Upon a Broken Heart series, if I'm being honest. So yeah, if you love Stephanie Garber, if you love Bridgerton, if you love the Once Upon a Broken Heart series, you will, I think, like this a lot. They also mentioned that it supposedly is kind of like the Coral Pins. Sure. But honestly, I did not really see that. Maybe toward the very end. I think I've been sitting on this thought for a while. Not literally, obviously. I mean, I was like thinking about it. And I think this might be a 5-star. Because I marked, highlighted paragraphs within the book. I loved the fact that it was mainly from Ivy's POV, but there were like changes in perspectives throughout the book, and you did get to see the perspectives of the girls. I have one tiny point of criticism for me personally. I felt as though if you don't want to know who Ivy Benton's love interest is, skip ahead. However, I do have to say that Ivy's and Emmett's relationship, I guess, or situationship happened a bit quickly. I don't know, maybe it was because I was comparing it so much to the Once Upon a Broken Heart series, and obviously in that one, Evangeline and Jax, their relationship develops rather slowly, so it may have been because I was comparing it to that. The love and obsession and just seemed a tad unnatural, but maybe that's just my preference. And maybe, who knows, some things might make more sense once the second book comes out. So, yeah. But I think this is our 5-star. I love this book. I love the atmosphere. I love that it was giving Bridgerton. And funnily enough, I was like in the mood for Bridgerton. If you're also in the mood for Bridgerton and you cannot wait for the next season, maybe read The Rose Bargain. Yay! We found our 5-star book. Honestly, I was expecting to have to read more books. I hope you enjoyed this video. This is my first ever YouTube video. I really, really hope you didn't mind my editing skills, because they're non-existent. Yeah, if you have any points of criticism, anything you would like to see next, please, please, please do comment them down below. I'm so curious to have a chat with you. And yeah, let me know what you'd like to see next. And I guess I'll see you in the next one. Thank you so much for watching.